Hello. Today, my student and I reviewed fractions, specifically the numerator and the denominator in a fraction, and how to add fractions with like denominators that are the same in both fractions. Now, first of all, what is the numerator and the denominator in a fraction? Well, let's take this fraction, 2 over 5, which is 40%. The numerator is just a fancy way of saying the top number of a fraction, and the denominator is the bottom number in a fraction. So, in the fraction 2 over 5, the numerator would be 2 and the denominator would be 5. Now, this really comes into effect when we start to add fractions. Let's say I have the number 2 over 5, and I want to add 1 over 5. What would the answer be? Well, when we're adding fractions with like denominators, that means denominators that are the same, the process is actually very simple. All we have to do is add the numerators together and keep the denominator the same. As you can see here, the two numerators in these fractions are 2 and 1, as they are the top numbers, and the denominators are 5 for both of them. So we are simply going to add the numerators, which would give us 3, and keep 5 as it is the same denominator for both fractions. Let's do another example. Let's say I have 3 over 8, and I want to add 2 over 8. What would that be? Now, it's the same thing, so as long as we have two denominators that are the same and we're adding those fractions together, you don't actually have to change the bottom sign, the denominator. You just have to add the two numerators. So the two numerators in this case are 3 and 2. So we would simply add 3 and 2, which is 5, and that would be our numerator, and the denominator stays the same, so it would be 8. Now let's see how to subtract fractions. Now, as long as we're subtracting fractions that have the same denominators, the process is extremely simple. So here's what you do. Let's say I have the number 5 over 8, and I wanted to subtract 2 over 8. Well, since the denominator is the same, it's pretty much the same thing as adding. The only difference here is the sign. So instead of adding the two numerators, you will subtract them. The two numerators in this case are 5 and 2. So we would subtract 5 minus 2, which would get us 3. And our denominator, as usual, stays the same. So our answer would be 3 over 8, or 3/8. Let's do another example for subtraction with a bit of a bigger number. Let's say I have 11 over 20, and I want to subtract 9 over 20. 9 over 20. So it is the exact same process. It doesn't matter how big the number is. As long as the two denominators are the same, you can just follow this simple process. So we simply subtract the numerators. 11 minus 9 would equal 2, and we keep the denominator the same, so it'd be 2 over 20. But in fractions, most people will want to see it in its simplest form, and 2 over 20 can be reduced, which means it is not in its simplest form. Now, to reduce a fraction, here is what we do. First of all, when you see a fraction, you have to see if there are any common factors between the numerator and the denominator. And if there is a common factor, you can reduce. For example, 2 and 20 both share the common factor of 2. If you divide 2 by 2, you get 1. And if you divide 20 by 2, you get 10. Therefore, it can be reduced to 1 over 10. And that would be our answer to 11 over 20 minus 9 over 20. Another fraction that you could reduce would be 2 over 8. As you can see, they both share the common factor of 2, so we would just divide both sides by 2, and we would get 1 over 4. Thank you.